Hi everyone, Coach Alexa here. So this video today has been inspired by two things. One, a conversation a month or two ago with an amazing runner where I did a technique analysis with them. And we were talking about pelvic stability. So the fact that we want our pelvis to stay really nice and still and level side to side to be a great strong foundation for our legs to move when we're running. And what was happening with her and with a number of runners that I work with, quite a high number of runners that I work with, is that as we land on one leg, we can't quite control those landing forces and the opposite side of the pelvis drops. And she made a really, really good point that actually, particularly women, are almost encouraged to walk and run in that way because that's what's seen to be sort of attractive. You know, models will walk and deliberately drop the side of their hip for a bit of a bum wiggle as they're walking. And so all of these thoughts came together in my mind when I was watching the new Batman film a couple of weeks ago at the cinema. I'm watching the amazing actor that plays Catwoman. Nobody could pull off a sort of PVC and leather onesie better, I don't think. But she uses that same sort of slightly sultry way of moving, where she's standing on one leg, she really drops the hip, and she's really crossing her legs over in this one scene when she was walking. And it really isn't the way we need or should be walking or running. I mentioned that it's a bit more prevalent among the female runners that I work with, and that is because we have wider pelvises. So our hip sockets and therefore our legs are just slightly wider apart in our pelvises in order to allow us to have babies. But that means that we actually need more control and more strength to control the movement of our pelvis and the movement of the leg in our hip sockets than men do, on average. There's lots of different pelvis shapes for men and women, but generally women's have got that extra width over men's. So I will now proceed to really badly demonstrate what I mean when it comes to kind of walking in this hip drop sort of way with a bum wiggle like models tend to do, and why actually for running that we want to walk in a different way. You'll notice that I'm not cut out to be a model because I'm really bad at doing that version. So when you see that these are sort of catwalk style walk as demoed by Catwoman in the Batman films, she takes a step forward and the leg crosses over. So when she lands on it, the other hip really drops, and then that other leg crosses over and then it drops. So as you speed it up, it becomes that little bit of a sort of bum wiggle. So you land. Now you can see I'm not very good at it. I'm not really making it look sultry at all. But stepping forward and drop, stepping forward and drop. So we can see if I start to put my hands on the side of my pelvis, so you can see where the level of that pelvis is. You can see it really drops. So I land on my right leg, left drops. Land on left leg, right drops. And that, with Catwoman particularly, I noticed, leads to the leg crossing over at the bottom. So you take a step forward, weight is on the right leg, that left side drops. But then as the leg swings through, it means that, well, if the pelvis is level, the leg would swing through fairly straight. If that hip drops, the leg swings through naturally more across to the centre line. So you get it combined with a big step over as well. What we want to be doing when we're walking and when we're running is actually keeping our pelvis level. So there's always a little bit of daylight in between our knees. So that's sort of a stride. Where our pelvis is moving gradually, it will rotate slightly forward and back on either side, but that stability left to right is the same. So I even had, when I've had hip surgeries in the past, I really had to work on rebuilding all of these stability muscles to look after my hip joints and make sure that I wasn't dropping into the hip and causing any sort of aggravation around the hip. I was given a drill by my physio, for example, to deliberately do the opposite. So I'd stand on my right leg and then I'd deliberately hitch up that other side in order to engage and activate those muscles. Now, there are loads of ways of working at this, if this is something that you feel that you do. You can often see, now we're getting some sunnier weather, if you have the sun behind you, you can see your shadow, you might be able to see that your legs cross over, you lose that daylight in between your legs or between your knees on the step through of your stride. You might notice that when you're tired, The leg that's swinging through starts to scuff the leg next to it. As that leg gets closer and closer to the centre line, so you might end up with little scuff marks, or in the wet weather a bit of mud on the inside of your ankle or lower calf. Or if you've frequently got knee pain, IT band pain, then that might be a contributing factor towards that as you're running as well. Strength training is one of the key answers to this one. So core strength can be really useful because it works on the stability of the pelvis all the way up to the shoulders, but also the stabilising glutes. So things like side leg lifts, band walks from side to side with a resistance band around your knees, all sorts of different exercises. If you're interested, if you want a list of exercises to give a go, drop me an email and I can share those out with you. Always a really, really good thing to focus on when we're running. We want that pelvis to be really nice and stable in the centre. We don't want that drop, because when we have that drop, it adds that twisting movement onto the leg. We come across our centre line, our knees, and they're not acting as designed. It's not just bending and straightening, it's having to deal with sideways forces. Our feet are then landing at a slight angle, which they might not necessarily like. So it's more efficient and definitely a better place to be for running at speed or over longer distances, to have that pelvis nice and stable. So the moral of this video is, don't run like Catwoman.